Hello everyone and welcome back to a very different project today. Now if you've been following my Facebook group Paper Crafting with Paul or my YouTube channel, you might have seen a few months back actually I shared my first board book. These board books are a bit different to the albums because there's no paper or cardstock pages to them, no spines or anything. Each page is a separate piece of your chipboard or your grey board. And they remind me of those storybooks you had as a child, where each page was this solid, thick cardboard, or as I said, grey board. So this was my Oriental Garden one that I originally did. And there were a few little niggles that I wasn't happy with for that. And it took me a while to get back to having another go, and I did with the Sea Dreams. So both these papers are by Stamperia, and they do use less than one of the 12 by 12 pads. And I did use a lot of my Cool Cats photo slots, and just made some tuck spots and so forth to go through. So it's a very different style project. The equipment and the things you need are slightly different to our normal one. We still want our trimmer and our scoreboard. There we go. So I've got my scoreboard and I've got my trimmer ready to go. My scoreboard's off to my side. I've covered the edges of my pages in some construction tape. This is the black tiger paw tape sold by Cool Cats. I'll link the Cool Cats shop in the description below, because a few of the items I used today came from that store. You're also going to want to get some book rings. Now I got mine on Amazon. What you want to make sure with, I found to my detriment, was that the shops all measure these different. Some measure across from edge to edge, some the interior, so the internal diameter. So what you want is the internal to be 1 inch or more. So make sure when you're in the shops to check that the internal measurement is 1 inch, not the external, because it might get a little bit tight. Got some removable tape which will help me keep decide where my pages are going. And you will need open my box upside down, and there's eyelets everywhere. Alright. There we go. I said there's eyelets everywhere. You will want a crocodile because we're going to be punching through our chipboard. So let's put everything to the side for now, and let's have a look at the pages we're going to make. Now the pages can be any size you want, but I have come up with a way to measure so all our holes have an even spacing, and even each page has an even spacing of, because I don't want my page coming here and having like half an eyelet showing. So everything is measured precisely as you would expect from me. I love my measuring and working things out. So the trick is the height of each page has to be to the nearest inch. So it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever you want. Don't be going like 1.5 inches. So as long as the height of your page is to an inch, this system or this method will work. So let's start with page 1. My page 1 is my biggest one in the back. So I've gone for 10 by 8. Okay. Then page 2, I've gone the same height, but I've come in a little bit. So I've gone 10 by 6. Then page 3, I wanted it to overlap a little bit from page 2, but be lower. So it's gone for 8.5 by 6.5. Now this method is quite repetitive, okay, because what we're going to do on each page is pretty much the same. So I've already started taping some of them up. Now page 4 is 6 by 7.5. Page 5 is 6 tall by 5 wide. Now those two I've designed that they can be covered both sides using just the one page of your designer paper. Then page 6 is 5 tall by 4.25. And page 7 is 4 by 5.5. So these are just my pages, and you can see how they worked out in the end. But if you wanted to adjust the measurements, of course you can. So as I said, I've already started covering all these with my tape. So I've just got 2 more to finish. So here's my tiger tape. Let's start with page 2 then. And I'm going to do exactly as I do when I do my album covers using the tape. I'm going to stretch out a length. I'm going to use a pen or something just to keep it over there. And now I've got the sticky side up. I'm going to place my page down the centre and adhere it. So I'm just squashing it on to adhere it. So you can see it's half of the tape showing each side. Then I'm gently just going to pull my tape. Make sure I don't tear it. If you do tear it, it doesn't matter. You can either just take it all off and replace, or just cut it off, list out, and then just carry on from that section. It's quite forgiving. So now I'll just stretch a little bit more. It's so much easier when you're not trying to do it on camera and in shot. So I'm just carrying on, just stretching it out, keeping it nice and tight. I'm pressing it down. And again, keeping it nice and tight. And down the middle. Now it doesn't have to be exactly down the centre. You're only going to see a tiny little bit of it once the paper's gone on. But it just gives you a nice professional finish to your pages. So now my page has been wrapped up. I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut a V towards each of my corners. So I'm just cutting out a little notch, so just going towards the corner of my chipboard. I make sure I'm taking away that little piece of tape each time. Just come in a little bit. And another one. So I'm having to do this in mid-air. I can't put it down because of the other side. Because if you remember, our tape is sticking up on the other side as well. So I've done all 4 corners there. So I'm going to flip it over and repeat. And one more to go. So now all the corners have been cut. So I'm going to hold up and I'm going to make sure that the tape has made contact with my board just by pressing it down. Then I'm just taking my finger and thumb and I'm just pressing gently over the edge of my cardstock. And I'm doing this very slowly. You'll see when I do the second one how quick I start to go. And that's all I'm doing, is gently just moving my finger and thumb down. So I've got that adhesion over the edge. Then just start in the middle. I'm just going to press out. So again, thumb finger, I'm just going to run over, come down a little bit further, and from the middle out. Again, pinch it over, a little bit more, from the middle out. Because I've got a long one here, I'm going to use both my fingers. There we go. And now we've got a nice smooth edge with our tape. And then I'm just going to use my Teflon tool just to burnish it all down and smooth any wrinkles. So if you ended up with a wrinkle, I think I was quite lucky this time. I think got a little bit there, but nothing major. As soon as you take your bone folder or your tool over, it'll all smooth out nicely. So there's page 2, just page 1 to go. So I'm going to try and do this a little bit quicker this time. Now this piece is quite large. So I apologise if I go off screen a little bit. But again, it's just down the middle, or as close to the middle as you can. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight or anything. Today we're just hiding those edges. And the last bit. And let's just keep it nice and tight and bring it over the edge. There we go. I'm just going to give the edges a little pinch so I know where the corners are. And then, as before, just cut out those V-shaped notches. And then the other side. And last one. Stand it upright, contact, pinch, center out. Contact, pinch, from the center out. Contact, small pinch, and then from the center out. Contact, pinch the edge, center out. So you can see, once you've got the hang of it, how quickly you can cover it. And this is still my go-to method for making album covers as well, because the tape can be used to make the hinges and everything. So there we have it. Our pages are already wrapped, and now we're going to move on to the next step, which is the binding method. So I'm going to show you how I make sure that my spaces are even. So we're ready now to do the holes down the side. So what I've got is my trimmer just to make my template. I've got my scoreboard to do my measuring a bit easier. And the most essential bit now will be my crocodile. So I've got my score tool and my pencil as well. So let's start just by cutting our template. So my largest page is page 1, which is 10 inches tall. So I'm going to cut my piece of scrap card at 10 inches. So I've gone for just a bright colour here, just so I can find my template when I put it down, rather than black. This was just an offcut, so it's 3 inches wide, but it doesn't matter about the width, just as long as it's more than a couple of inches. So I'm going to put it now in my scoreboard with a long piece along the top, and I'm going to score it 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to go every 1/2 inch in between the inches. So we've done half. What I mean is 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. So we're just moving up an inch every time. 6.5, 7.5, 8.5, and 9.5. So I've just got those score lines, which are 1 inch apart. So I'm done with my scoreboard for now, and I'm going to move on to my crocodile. Now I'm using not the thin one, but the thicker hole today, just so I've got enough room to get my rings through. And I'm going to set it by moving this, so I don't have to worry then about getting the depth right every time. I can change this just by unscrewing, and I'm going to move it so it's at the 1 inch, so a really nice long one there, and then just tighten it again. So now my crocodile's depth has been set. What I'm going to do is on every score line, I'm going to try and center it between that hole. So I may have to just come over a little bit. So the depth, I've pushed it all the way till I meet that metal hinge, and press. And again. So I'm just lining that score line, so it's going down the middle of that hole. And I'm just going to keep moving along. And because I've set the depth, I don't need to worry about that. I think the first time I did it, I was trying to measure it every time, because I just left it to the edge before I realised I could do that. So again. Just a couple more. I'm taking my time with this to get it as accurate as I can. It's not a step you want to rush through. There we go. So I've now got all the holes on my template done. This then will come in to play later on when we put this down and we measure where the holes go. But before we do that, I want to cover it in my paper. I just find it easier that way. So the paper we're going to use today is the Klimt collection by Stamperia. So I haven't thought much through it yet. I have actually used one. I've cut one piece out already for something else. So I hope I've kept all the pages inside. So I'm thinking now about my spacing. So I'm going to have a little bit of exposed piece on the back one here. So let's have a look. So the cover is not going to be much use to me for decorating the pages. So this is now why I've got my removable tape. Because once I've cut it, I'm going to just tape it onto my page. Keep it there. Okay. So when we open it up, we're going to have these 2 pages going across. So I'm trying to think, to start off with, about matching something across. So let's have a look. The Tree of Life. This is something that might go... Watch out, this will be the bit which probably takes me the longest now, is to work up. Oh, look, we've got him. So if we have that, he's going to show up there. And then on the other side, we can have that. So we've got this pattern going across. So let's go for those 2. Let's move them out the way, and let's bring our trimmer in. So our page was 10 inches tall, so I'm going to go back to 9 3/4. Cut it across, and it was 8, so I'm going to reduce everything by 1/4 of an inch, so 7 3/4. So that is going to be there. Now these pieces, I'm not going to waste, they're going to come in handy for the smaller pages towards the end. So I'm going to repeat now. It was 10 inches tall, so I want to go to 9 3/4. And page 2, this one is, which was 6 inches wide. So I'm going to go 5 3/4. There we go. So when it opens up, we've got those 2 pages sort of marry up with each other. But I have got the front here. So because this was less than 6 inches, I can get the front out of that 1 page as well. So this is where now I'm going to start taping them down, just so I know where they're going to remain later on. So this is a very strange album because we're actually decorating it before we even construct it. Because usually you're doing all your decoration bits towards the end and all your finishing touches. So let's just put a bit of tape on the top and bottom, flip it over. There we go. Now you may notice I haven't done the back yet. I'm going to wait till the end, see what I've got left. If I haven't got anything that I think is suitable for the back, I'll just put a piece of black cardstock on and maybe a border and one of the images from the inside of the cover, or the back side of the cover. So that's just a way you can save a bit of your Stamperia paper. We've done that, so now going on to page 3. So with page 3, I'm going to be seeing just a little strip along the top. So I want anything interesting to be up there. So let's have a look. What can we have? So we could do that, just to bring those swirls and have it that way round. We've also got those. I think let's go with this one. So this page was 8 inches tall. going to go back to 7 3/4. And 6 1/4. So that's going to be the front. So that's not going to be big enough for there. So we're going to have to find something else. So I'm going to keep that one for page 4 and 5. I'll explain why in a second. So let's have a look at what this page is going to be matching onto this. I'm looking for something nice and gold. We could go with that one. Yep, let's go with that. So again, 6 1/4 inches by 7 3/4. Go. So let's just take some tape. And on the back, oh, we could use either of these. Quite like that side. So let's go with that one. Oh, we could even flip it over. We'll decide later on. Okay, so we've got this one. Now, as I said, when we went through cutting and doing the pages, page 4 and 5 have been designed. They're the same height, so we can get both of these out of the one sheet. So what I'm looking for is something with a nice border. So if I have a look at the Oriental Garden one, I chose this because the border continues across both of them. And then I just use the matching one for the backs. So let's have a look at, on the Sea Dream one, I chose an image that you could, if it goes all the way across. So if you've got a page which has got like a seam, you could do this, do that on these two pages. So they were 6 inches tall. So I'm going to cut them at 5 3/4. So I'm going to have this one on the front and this one on the back of each one. So the first one was 5 inches. So I'm going to go back to 4 3/4. That was for page 5, and then page 4 was 7 1/2, so 7 1/4, which it already is. And you'll see then how the pattern carries along the 2 pages. So let's do the same with this one. So we wanted it at 5 3/4 tall, wasn't it? Yes. By 4 3/4. So that's all we've got left from that piece. So let's bring in 4 and 5. And just taping them down. It's just because I'm going to be doing the decorating and the photo slots and things before gluing them down. So this just keeps everything where I want it to be for later on. And let's have the gold, keep the gold on top. There we go. As you can see, our book is starting to come together. We've got all these colours, those Klimt colours, all working perfectly together. So we've got page 6 and 7 left. Now I can start thinking about some of the ones I had before, rather than cutting into a new sheet. Can I start using this? So we've got nice and gold, which would be nice because I've got all these circles I can use to decorate the front. That's all I did on the Oriental Garden one, was just have one of them and a little sentiment. So they'd be perfect. So a nice neutral background would work well, unless I'm going to use the Tree of Life, in which case I wouldn't really want that and that. So let's have a look which one. Actually, I think the Tree of Life is a nice one to use. So maybe I do want something a bit more jazzy and colourful. So let's go for that one for page 7. And will I get page 6 out of this one? I'll get one piece from there. Oh, this is one of the cutouts from earlier. Well, not earlier, from the pages. I think I must have planned on using that later on. So let's put that carefully to the side. Yeah, we've got some nice sentiments which will work with that tree. So let's go quite bold, I think. Let's go for this one. So page 7 first. So page 7 is 4 inches tall. So let's make it 3 3/4. And it's 5 1/2 wide, so I'm going back to 5 1/4. And get my 5 1/4 here as well. I've actually ended up totally accidental with a nice border strip there. So that's page 7. Let's have the blue at the top, I think. Again, just tape them in place. And we've just got page 6 left. So page 6 is going to be there. So let's have this just to tie in there. So 5, so 4, 4 1/4, sorry, so 4 inches by 4, 4 3/4. So that'll just tie in with that page. And then on the back, let's have a look, do we have any more? Absolutely don't. So let's go for this one because I haven't used that. So again, it's 4 3/4 tall and 4 inches wide. Let's lift that up. Let's get this paper on first. And there we have the last two. So when I bring my whole board book in, I can lay it all out and have a look if I'm happy with how it's looking. And because I've got that tape, it's keeping everything in place for me just to have a look. And because it is the repositionable tape, if I wanted to turn one around, I could do. Or if I wanted to flip one over, say I'm not happy with that side. Let's see what the back paper's like. I can flip it over and put it down and see which one I prefer. And remember, for each page, you've actually got 4 options, because let's go to page 6. I've got that. I can flip it over to that one. I can actually flip it over that way. And of course, I got the back of that as well. So I think I'm quite happy with that, because we're starting with the golds and the creams. Then we're slowly bringing that gold in and getting darker with a bit more pattern. Then we've got that nice border there. But equally, I could flip them over and have the borders more like that, just to bring those triangles in. I've got the triangles here as well, but I'm going to keep it here because I've actually got the two very similar patterns going on there. So there we are. That's our papers sorted. Now I do have plenty for the back of this, so I could have a look at what I've got left. Oh, I did have plenty of paper here I could have used for that. If I'm not happy, let's have a look. I think I'm okay with that one. If not, I could have used that one to tie in. Do you know what? I am. Let's do it. Let's go for this one. So let's remember how wide. So it was 4 by 4 3/4. So let's do the 4 3/4 by, just so I've got that blue coming in, I think. Triangles at the top. That's looking good now. Okay. As I said, for the back, well, I'm keeping that because I want that for the front. But equally, I could have used the back. I've got my cutouts from the back cover. I've still got some scraps here as well. I've still got my inside cover as well, on off to my side, and I've cut one of those, so I've still got 3 full sheets untouched for a future project, and then plenty of toppers as well. Okay. So let's go back to our board book, and I'm going to bring in my Oriental one, and I'll show you what I've done. Now each page is going to be the same, so I'm going to show you which ones I've used of the photo slots so you can see what I've done, and I'll just show you what I'm going to do on the back too. So with the Cool Cats photo slots, what you get, there's set 1 and set 2. So set 1 were the first ones that came out, and they were these small ones here. So these are photo mats. So they cut out with a nice little dashed pierced edge. And we had these 3 small sizes: small rectangle, a larger one, and a square. And after much begging, they then came out with some larger ones. So this was the photo slot 2. I'll add a link below if you want to get your hands on these, but these are probably my most used dies ever. And they fit standard photo sizes, the set 2 does. So it's a 4x4 and a 6x4 and a 5x7. Now I haven't used the 5x7 in mine. You can, but I just felt that the 6x4 was plenty for this one. And for each of these photo mats, what you get is a coordinating photo slot die. And what it is 4 little corner pieces like that, which cut into your paper. So when you look at the paper, you will spot, if you're coming close enough, a little hole where your photo mat can go straight in, or you can just slide your photo straight inside. But without it, you've got the lovely paper showing. So I've got all the matching photo slot dies as well. So let's have a look at, these are photo set 2, these are set 1. So let's put it aside for now. And I'm going to place these in order. So I've got my smallest rectangle, my square, and my larger rectangle from set 1, my 4x4, and my 6x4. So on the back of page 7, I've got the larger one from set 1. On the back of page 6, I've got it again, but this time I've done it portrait. On the back of page 5, I think I used it again, portrait, yep. On the back of page, so there's a 1, 2, 3, back of page 4, I went for the 4x4. It was just a little bit too short for the 6x4. It was getting a bit close to the edge, but you could do, we'll have a look later on. Let's have a look. Yes, you could put a 6x4 one there as well. Then on the back of page 3, I've got my 6x4 one. And this is the one I'm going to show you because it took a little bit more figuring out. Because I've got room for a 4x4 here and a 4x4 here. I didn't hide this bit here because it would be showing on the book. So I've put a 4x4 here because it would be covered by this one. And then a 6x4 on the bottom. So I'm going to show you how I did this page. So let's just move them apart. And let's get my Klimt one. So this is page 1. So I'm going to take off my repositionable tape. And of course, this is just my choice for decorating. You might choose to do something totally different, and that's fine. But because I want the photo slot in the paper, I've got to do this before I glue it down. So I'm going to place my 4x4 one up top left and my 6x4 one along the bottom. So I'm trying to just straighten it out. I'm going to bring this so the edge is lined up. And because my page is so big, I need my A4 cutting machine, so I've got my Platinum. I'm going to send it through. And once I bring it out, you'll think, what's happened? Because you won't see much. But what I've actually done is cut like corner slits here. So let me bring in a 6x4. So I've just cut these out of black card, and I put these in before I glue my page down. And when I come to glue, I'll explain why. And one thing I thought I've just realised I should have done, I didn't think ahead of time, is, and this could mean me having to cut another piece of paper out, the holes are going to come here, aren't they? So I really should have put this further to the right. I think that is going to wind me up. I think I will have to do another one for this. Let's have a look. That was a big boo-boo. And I can't even use this unless I go for one of these to match in with the swirl. Because if I want the tree, it means I can't use a piece there. So which one shall we go for? I think we'll go for that one then. So I'm going to cut off from this piece. I can't believe I did that. So 7 3/4 by 9 3/4. So there we go. That's the mistake of the day then, folks. Let's do it again. Okay. I'm going to take it over just a little bit more. There we go. Oh, what a silly mistake. It'll all work out, I'm sure. Here we go. Now, I'm going to put those cards in. And I'm also going to bring in my distress ink. So I've gone for the black soot because I've got the black tape, so it all ties in. And I'm just going to get rid of that white core and just finishes off my paper. Go. So the advantage of having the photo mat in before gluing is, one, I know where not to put my glue, otherwise you won't be able to get your thing in, but also it's training when it's gluing is training your paper to be raised, which will make putting your photo slots in much easier later on. So with the tape now, the gluing, obviously I want to avoid where my photo mats are, but also we're going to be punching holes into this paper and through the chipboard. So just avoiding those bits. So down the left hand side here, I'm actually going to put quite a bit of glue and smear it, because I need my paper to be totally stuck there. For when the holes come, I need that adhesion so that my paper doesn't lift. So I'm just going to center it. Bring in my Teflon tool. There we go. So that's the front of that page done. I'm going to put the black piece on later, but I think you can work out how that's done. So let's pull this back. So this is the back now of page 2. And on this one, I had 2 photo slots. So I'm going to show you how I did that as well. So to make them even, what I do, I use my 6x4 as a guide for my 4x4. Now remember, this time I'm going to leave space on the right hand side for those holes later on. So let's have a look. So this is the height of 4x4, so that should be fine. So I don't want to cut with that. I'm just going to use this one, and it's moved. And just get it back in place. There we go. So it's gone through my die cutting machine. And now I've got those slots. Now these 2 slots will slot into there so that I can use that. Let's get it in as a measure, or I can just go straight. Let's have a look. Ah, there we are. So now I can line it up. It's going to be in the same place. Bit of a space down. There we go. So I need 2 of my square photo mats this time. I need to just press the edge before I glue it down. And the last edge. Go. So we've got the back of page 2. There we go. So thank goodness I remembered to leave the gap this time. So again, take my glue. Now down this left hand side, which would be the right when I flip it over, I need plenty of glue so that's not going to lift. keeping far away from those photo slots. And I'm just going to add some more here. And Teflon tool. So the front of each of them from now on is just stuck on flat. So I'm just going to distress the side. So I didn't use any of my photo slots on the fronts. You could. Just make sure they are hidden behind the page that's on top. But what I've decided to do is make some pockets and tuck spots instead. Just to add a bit of interest. So I'm bringing in my scrapbooking skills to the front and photo mats on the back. Glue it down like so. So I said, so the fronts now, the only one which had a difference was this one because all the pages hid everything there. So other than the back one, every other page now is the same. Photo slots on the back, plain on the front. So rather than watch me do all these now, I'm just going to switch the camera off and you'll join me, and just like magic, these will all be glued down. And there we have it, as if by magic, all the pages have been cut, glued, and prepped ready for cutting the holes. So what I've done, just to recap, is made sure that I've got enough glue down the left-hand side of the front, smeared it all down, and on the right of the backs. That's because now when the holes get punched, that your paper is not going to lift. So if you remember from earlier, we've got our template. So I'm going to start at the back, just because it's the biggest one. And I'm going to grab my pencil, and I'm going to grab my crocodile. Okay. So now the stencil, also the template, I'm going to place so that the corners match. So this is why all your pages need to be to the nearest inch, because if you're going to do 9 inches, it would come here. You're going to get a nice even space throughout. It's got a nice sharp pencil, and I'm just going to draw a circle inside each of these. There we go. So we've got that all nice and lined up. And one thing I have got to do, which I need to sort out before I cut, is I haven't done the back of this one. So my page was 8, so I go back to 7 3/4. Yeah, 7 3/4. And it was 10 inches tall. So I can go back to the 9 3/4. I'll keep this bit because I can use that to cut my little tabs and handles and things with that bit. So let's glue that. And again, the holes are going to go here, so I need to make sure I got enough glue down the right hand side. So I'm going to add a bit of extra here and smear it. and on the back of my black piece. Again, I have got plenty of paper left if you wanted to make it all coordinated with the paper. I did on the other two, but I just thought I'd show you that you don't have to do that. So let's get it all did down. And I'll see what I've got at the end, then I can put onto the back. Now normally I'd give that then a second to dry before doing this bit, but because we want to get this thing, project going, I'm going to push it in. Now, because I've set that earlier to that 1 inch, the depth is going to be correct still. And what I'm doing is I'm lining up that pencil circle inside the hole at the top of my crocodile. And now you are going through chipboard and paper and cardstock. So the likelihood is each time you are going to have to clear that hole. So I'm going to go through each of these. Now, don't worry, I'm only going to do the first page. I'm not going to make you sit through doing every single one of these. Sometimes you're lucky enough it just pops out. Other times just grab your brad hole or sharp pointy pokey tool. Oop, didn't come out. There we go. And the last one. And cleared. Okay, so that's all the holes for page 2 cut out. Now, to tidy up this, the cool cats have got their cat's eye dies, which is this, which cuts out some circles with a hole in the middle, like your old eyelet type things. And it comes in 3 different sizes. So if you wanted to, you could mat and layer onto each other. Again, if you want to get your hands on these, I'll add a link below. Now, the great thing about this is it cuts 6 at a time, because you are going to need quite a few. So I've spent an afternoon just cutting a bunch of these. I just keep them in a bag, just in a zippy bag for anything like this project. So let's just, and then I'm just going to glue one of these over the edge. And you can see it just hides that raw edge from your crocodile. So I think I counted, actually, because we needed 20 for this page, 20 for the next page. I think, did I write down how many we needed in the end? Let's have a look. Yeah, you needed 98. But because I was cutting 6 at a time, it wasn't as much of a job as I thought it would be. And I was using all the scraps from my albums, my previous albums. So that's what I tend to do after I've done an album. all those little scrappy bits like this one, I take my little Cool Cats dies and I cut out lots of brad closures and swing closures, and just then keep them in a bag so that when I'm making a project, they're just to hand. See, so this is an optional thing, but I do think it just finishes it off nicely. And the last one for the front. There we go. Let's put these back in the tub. So normally then, you would then move on and glue them on the back as well, but because it's all black, it's not gonna work here. But what I could do is I could use these scraps and I could cut some from my designer paper just to finish off the back here. That'd be a nice one. 6-12. I'd be able to get enough from there. In fact, let's have a look at what they would look like. Whilst the die cutting machine is here, and I've got my paper, I've got the die. There we go. They've all fallen out. Nice little finishing touch on the back. All coordinated nicely. And I'll just cut out another 6 or so from the rest of the paper just to finish off. The back, because I will need another 4. Okay, and there we go. That's how you prepare each of your pages. And just as I did before, I'll switch off now, and as if by magic, when I come back, each of these pages will be done as well. So I've marked page 2. I thought I'd better show you this bit before leaving you. From now on, the pages are narrower than my template. So what I'm going to do is line up the left-hand side with the left-hand corner. And that will still give me my even spacing, because the top of my page is directly in between those two. So that's why you want to keep all your pages to that inch tall. Okay, so there we go. Again, with the next one, I'm keeping my template still in the same proportion. I don't want to start flipping it and things like that. I'm keeping it. So I'm always marking this corner against the bottom left of my page. You can see, so the X there always goes to the bottom left, and that'll make sure that all your holes are always even. And there we go, as if by magic, all of the holes now have a little eyelet covering just to tidy up the edge. So it's time now to start decorating it. So you can either put your rings in now, but it's easier, I think, to decorate it once it's all flat. So I've already gone and fussy cut some things. So as I said earlier, when I was going through the papers, I was going to use this one. It wasn't the original plan. And but as you remember, things went a little bit wrong. So we've got our plan B going here. So that's all I've done is fussy cut it with scissors and inked it then with my black soot. Then on the inside cover, we had a load of sentiments. So I've cut one of those, the inspiration one, and I'm just going to place that down here. Now, just to add a little bit of extra dimension, one of my favourite Cool Cats dies, other than the photo slots, is this one, the brad closure. It comes in 3 shapes, but the circle seems to be my go-to one. So it comes with this die, which cuts out a circle. There's a little score line there, so you can make a little hinge and a place for your brads. But I don't use brads in mine, I use pearls. And then a little circle mat as well. So I use pearls, so I've got like a faux one. So what I've done, I've cut 3 of the black ones with the main die and 2 of the circles, and I've backed the 3 main ones together just to give it some sturdiness, and then just added the decorative paper. So I'm just now going to glue on the edge there. Now I don't mind I've gone over the hole because I'm going to be covering that as well in a second. So I'm lining up that score line with my paper. I think I'm going to go about there. So I've got plenty of glue on it because I want it quite sturdy. Now I'm not finished with that. What I'll do, once it's dried, as I said, instead of brads, I'm just going to use these black pearls just as a faux brad. So I'm just going to drop some glue in the hole. Now this does dry clear, thank goodness, because you do want plenty of glue there because it's going to be handled quite a bit. There we go. Let's see what it would look like. So it's a nice little finishing touch tab there. Now normally I would turn it over, but because those pearls, I'm going to set it aside. So again, on that inside cover, there were so many sentiments, so I've cut them out, as I said, just inked the edges. So let's see where these are going to go. These are going to act as my tuck spots now. So I think I've put them in as sort of an order, so you can see it's the cover. Now I'm just going to do a backwards L shape. That will mean then it's like a pocket where I can tuck things in. So we've got that little tuck spot. I'm going to keep it down nice and low so that it doesn't show above that one. Make sure it's straight. There we go. And you'll be able to tuck a photo or a note behind there then. So let's turn that over. Then it's just going to dry there. As this is in my hand, let's do the same. So backwards L shape. Again, down the bottom left corner. So we've got enough room to tuck things in. And flip it over. Now this one I'm going to do slightly different. Do you remember that piece I said I had left, which was a nice long border, which was accidental? I'm actually going to make that into a belly band. So I'm just going to put some glue, top and bottom. And we're just going to, if I bring this in, it's going to be there so I can come anywhere up without it being seen. So I want it a little bit across so that I can tuck things and it pops out the other side. But we're still not going to be able to see that. It's hidden by that one. That's a nice little belly band. I could put a little image on that as well later maybe. Now, the valuable and simple in life makes you create art. Another backwards L shape. Down here. And then with this one, this came from this sheet. So it's one of the big toppers. So I've just trimmed it down and I've backed it on some black card so I can have it overlapping a little bit as so. So again, I'm going to do a backwards L shape, but I'm not going to go to the edge here because I don't want the glue coming over the edge here. So let's have a look. So this page is going to come up that height. So I'm thinking about that as well. There we go. So even though it's overlapping, you won't see it because it'll be behind that page. That's looking good. And then the inside's already got all those photo mats. And then the back, I still haven't decided what I'm going to go on there, but I've still got a bunch of these. And also the back cover has some images as well, which I could cut out and put on there. Here we go. So on this one. So you can see the cover, the front cover had all those on the back, all the sentiments, and then this has got that. So I probably could just use that square or one of those. Oh, I've still got this strip actually. That's from the cover as well. I could put that down. Actually, that looks quite nice. Should we go for that? Let's do it. Let's get the trimmer. So it was 10-inch page, so 9 3/4. Let's have a look. Oh, I've cut it at 10. Never mind, it'll fit on. Let's just ink the edge. It's got a nice border, just tying everything together there. I think that's worked pretty well. I sort of echoed colour-wise there. And then, just while that's drying, let's add a little bit of interest up here. So when this is closed, and this one is there. So by there, I've used my brad closure die again, and this time I've got 2 of them and 3 of the circles. Now if I bring in my oriental one, I actually used it to make a little magnetic tuck spot up here. So it just goes under there, like so. So to do that, I'm going to take some magnets. Now these are 1/2 mil magnets. We don't want thick ones here. And I'm just going to be attaching it underneath here. Let me just grab some double-sided tape. There we go. and place it in the middle as so. And I'm just going to put an extra bit of tape over the top, so when I come to attach it here, it'll be fine. So let's take it off. Add some glue all around. Let's add it, just line it up on the top there. So that's glued nice and flat there. Now this one, I'm just going to add the glue to the top piece. But it's up to you now if you wanted to put a decoration there. But because I'm not really going to see it, I cut 3 just so I could play around. I think I'm going to go for that one because it's just managed to catch that swirl. So I'm just going to glue above that score line, and I'm just going to match it on top. So it'll flap then, like so. I'm going to put some tape down onto the top, take my second magnet and just drop it. That's where it's going to go. And just hide it now with one of my decorative circles. Let me just put some tape over it again. So that'll do 2 things. It'll hold it down, but it also smooths the edge of the magnet, just so it's a little bit less visible underneath this. So make sure I've got plenty of coverage there. There we go. And we've got a little magnetic place, so we can tuck in, I know this is the oriental one, but you can tuck in your photo or tag or something in there. And I think as far as decoration, we are done. So it's now time to assemble the book. So as you've seen, all of mine so far have been with the book rings, which again, as I said, I got from Amazon. You can get them on eBay. Make sure that internal measurement is 1 inch or more. But if you haven't got the rings, you can still do it. I've just got some thin ribbon here, but you could use thicker ones. I've just got a thin one so I can do it quicker. Now, if you're using the ribbon, I'll just do it here so I'm not having to thread every page. You would thread it through. That's the 4th one down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not that it matters because I'm not going to keep it in here. And this is way longer than I need. If you were to tie it up here now, as so, it would look nice, but you wouldn't be able to turn your pages, especially because each of them is a different width. So if you're going to tie it tight, this might be able to move, but then your thinner ones up the top wouldn't. So what you're going to do, if you're doing the ribbon method, is you're going to grab a pen and tie it. So do a double knot. You could bow it, whatever you want then, and take it out, and that'll just give you a bit of leeway there for tying up. Now I did tie it a bit too tight, so let me just cut it off. There we are. Because we are going to use the rings. So to use the rings, I'm just going to open it up and they're sideways. There we are. I'm going to hook them all onto that bottom one. So I'm starting, this is probably the toughest one because you've got all that thickness. go. And then just close and clip it into place. So I start with that one, and I know, yeah, my book rings enough. I can still move the pages. So I'm going to do that one, and then I'm going to do this one, the top of my smallest page. So one, 2, 3 pages, 4, 5. I'm counting just to make sure I don't miss a page. Here we go, and 7. So now that's all in place. It should be a little bit easier now just to feed them all through. There we go. So there's the 4 toughest ones done. And you can see then your book opens up fine, because all the ones from now on will be looser. Now, of course, if you had bigger rings, you could add more of your 8x10s towards the end. There we go. You see, it gets much easier as we get to this position. I suppose if you had different sized rings, you could just shrink them as you went up. I think I like the evenness of it as we go up. And there we go. So obviously those top ones are going to be looser than these ones on the bottom, just because they're holding less pages. And there we go, your Klimt board book, all finished. Oh, not quite. Let's just add those 2 pearls. Here we go. There we are. So there's your Klimt complete. Now, if you do want to get your hands on this paper pack or any other Stamperia paper pack, check out intocraft.com or .co.uk, sorry. I'll add a link to the shop below where I got my papers. Fantastic prices. Now, they do come up with other products such as the die cuts, and I wouldn't use the die cuts here. I've gone for the fussy cutting because if I'd used the die cuts, it would have raised our pages a bit more and it would have been too tight. I could just use larger rings, but then the rings are going to get really big over here for these two. So for this one, I have gone with the fussy cutting of the papers just to keep everything nice and flat. So your board book is all done. Of course, you can then decorate it a bit more like I did with this one. I added some glossy accents to areas you would see. And on the cover, can you see on the butterfly and the sentiment and the dragonfly, more glossy accented. I just tied some ribbon to each of the rings and added some circle die cuts, some circle punches to the end just to tie it all in. on the Sea Dreams one, I didn't. I just kept it nice and plain. So either way works nicely. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around to the end. And as always, if you've enjoyed it, please give me the thumbs up. And if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. It really does mean a lot. And any hints or any questions, write them in the comments below. I like to read what you say. I try to answer every one of them. But also in the description will be more information. If you do have a go, head over to Facebook, join my Facebook group, Paper Crafting with Paul. I'd love to see your versions, see what they look like with the different papers. So again, a link to that group in the description below. So thanks for watching. I'll see you all again soon.